Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to the episode of Theorycraft Thursday. For those of you joining us for the first time, Theorycraft Thursday is a weekly series for the upcoming collectible card game, Total War Elysium, where I will be diving into a certain gameplay topic or design topic. And this week, we're going to take a look at the new general, Ragnar, and his very unique special ability. So as we can see here, Ragnar is the first general that was introduced at 2 attack, and is given 20 health. Now that by itself is already pretty unique, but what makes him really different from every single general that's in the game so far is his passive ability, which you can see here says Daybreak. This attacks each adjacent ally. So this is the first ability on general where it's actually a penalty against the general himself or herself. In this case, we have to attack our adjacent allies during each and every single Daybreak. So if we imagine a board state like this, where we have 2 adjacent forlorn hopes for some reason, then during the Daybreak, we'll smash into each of them. They will each become 7 2s, and we will become 2 6. We'll pop our own last gasp, assuming we're full health. So you can actually kill yourself playing as Ragnar. So you have to be really careful about how to play around this, and that's going to be the focus of this entire Theorycraft Thursday. What is the best way to utilize this passive so that it actually benefits you, or at least minimize the cost against you? So let's take a look at some possibilities. Well, the first thing you have to make note of is that it is a Daybreak effect. So it will happen every 7 turns, as in 3 turns for you, 4 turns for your opponent, or vice versa, depending on which day it is, or if any of the player plays the card False Dawn. And this becomes a very powerful card against Ragnar, because as an opponent, you can catch him out of position when he least expects it, and you play False Dawn, which if you have in your deck, which means it already synergized with some part of your deck already, so you are probably getting some benefit out of this, and you also punish Ragnar at a time where he least expected. So this card becomes very powerful when playing against Ragnar. Now, aside from this very special situation where your opponent can trigger False Dawns, most of the time, you have plenty of time to prepare as a Ragnar player. And the first thing you should really do is make sure your Ragnar is always on one side of the line. As in, put him on the leftmost position or the rightmost position. This way, your adjacent allies becomes adjacent ally, as in only one ally to you, left or right. Don't have 2 units around you, then you will be attacking 2 things rather than 1, because there's not many good things for you to attack, considering it's a friendly fire situation. So I prefer to put him on the leftmost side. The reason for this is if you have a card like 8 Decamp in your deck, which will heal during each Daybreak, the heal order, or the order of cards being triggered, is top to bottom, left to right. So this way, Ragnar would do his damage, get injured, and then get the full 9 point of health. Because if you play him on the right side and happens A to be on the left side of him, then the heal will kick in first, and then he will still do attack, and it will still be damaged. So left side's probably a good rule of thumb. If you have a reason to trigger this at the later point of the Daybreak, then perhaps you want to put him on the right. But I think in most cases, left side is probably the best case scenario. And just because we put him on the edge of your line, he still has to attack something. So in the early game, what are some of the good cards that you could use to absorb this hit? Well, here are a few options. You have a card like the Javeliers. So previously, before the patch change, Javelier was a wonderful card for this job because it would be in a 0/2 1 cost Herald, deal 1 damage to any target. Now it's a 2 cost, 1 damage, 2 health, deal 1 damage to any target. It's still probably the least damage you'll take considering it's a 1 attack card. There's not that many 0 attack cards in the game now, aside from our second card here, High Ridge, which would be an excellent choice here as well because you will provide a boost to the rest of your line while having this 0 attack thing, or ally, this is a structure, to absorb the hits from Ragnar. And you can absorb 3 days worth of hits with this 1 card, assuming the enemy do not clear it. So this is a pretty good choice in my opinion. And then you have a new card that was added in the Doomed Rearguard. So this is probably a more aggressive approach where you play a lot of shatter cards and you take advantage of this ability to shatter your own card, or at least help your card to get shattered. And here the Doomed Rearguard, being 1/4, has the shatter effect of deploying a short sword, which is a 2/2 unit. So this way you play this at 2, you can absorb one trade, and then by turn 3 or 4, whenever your first day end, you can switch a 1/4, which is probably already 1/2 or 1/1, with a 2/2 at the beginning of the next day when you have your actions back. And that's a pretty neat trick to use as well. And another thing we can see here is that all 3 cards I picked here as examples are 2 costs, and there's a reason for that, because Ragnar himself has a signature card as well called Avenge, which costs 3. So if you're progressing along your curve nicely, you could play your Avenge on turn 3, right before the Daybreak triggers, and this will give a target ally the effect of Shattered, deploy a Skeed. And Skeed, you can see here, is a 2/2 ship. So a lot of ship cards got added, so if you're playing some sort of ship synergy deck, then you will get a lot of free ships from other cards by simply playing Avenge on them. And in future days, if you could play Avenge on multiple turns on the same card, you could summon multiple Skeeds out of one card. So it helps you maintain a little bit of board control by always having a unit, and also provides a nice target and a reward for Ragnar. Because let's say we had High Ridge out there that was going to get destroyed. Let's say you stacked a couple of Avenge on it already. Then the second you pop it with your own card, you get 2 or 3 skids. That's a pretty good deal. If you had used Avenge on Doomed Rearguard, then you pop it during your first Daybreak. Then at the beginning of your second day, you all of a sudden have 2 2/2 units. So that's also a pretty good deal. So there's some synergy here, especially if you need ships in your deck, but you don't want to take some of the ship cards that are in the game. But all these strategies tend to be mitigating damage, taking 0 damage or taking 1 damage. You could also take advantage of this friendly fire by using other cards available to Ragnar, namely Torchbearer, Religious Fanatics, or Friary. And these 3 cards would all benefit from such friendly action. Torchbearer would deal 1 damage to a random enemy whenever a friendly ally dies, and you could utilize Ragnar to trigger this a few times and also put some pressure on your opponent just by having a Torchbearer or multiple Torchbearers on your backline. Although I'm also curious if they're ever going to change the wording of this card, consider they changed the wording of the tracker card, because now it says deals 1 damage when it could be deals its attack to random enemy. Because I believe the tracker card as well as Vigilant Watch both got changed to whatever its attack is, it will transfer that attack to the enemy. Here, I feel like we could potentially see that change in the future. That would be an interesting one, because Guthrum exists and you could boost Torchbearer quite easily. Then in the middle here, we have Religious Fanatic, which is another card that could take advantage of this, as whenever another friendly unit or structure survives damage, this gains +1/+1. So that means if you had a card like High Ridge or Friary or some other card with high health right next to Ragnar, absorbing those 2 damage during the end of day, then Religious Fanatic will gain a big boost passively during the end turn, and that could benefit him as well as your board. And then finally, Friary is a great card to help you draw cards, so being 1/5, the damage that you will receive is not so bad, and opponents tend to not attack this structure, since structures can't attack anyway, so if they ignore this, you never draw any cards. Ragnar allows you to trigger this at every Daybreak, so essentially it's a free draw. And if you run cards like Blot Out the Sun, which could damage Friary, or Angry Mob, and a combination of Second Wind, which could heal it back up, as well as heal back Ragnar, because Ragnar is going to be taking a lot of damage, then you could get a lot of card draws from this one card. Pretty useful. And then you might convince the opponent to sink 5 damage into an otherwise pretty useless card. Then moving on, speaking of taking damages, we have to think about how to mitigate damage completely. And that's not saying we take less damage, but saying take no damage or heal it back. And there's a few cards that could help us with that. We can utilize Shield Wall. This would give shields to the entire friendly line, which means when you attack during the Daybreak, you will be breaking your own shield as well as your adjacent ally's shield, but no one will get damaged. So you're pretty much paying for the Shield Wall to keep everyone safe. not a bad idea in my opinion. And in case you do tank a few damage, Second Wind is a great choice to take every single day, because I think this is probably the best card right now for medieval decks, because you can heal 4 to an entire line every single day by taking this card. It's a very cheap card, and since they nerf Aid de Camp, which is also shown here, you can't get consistent healing in the game anymore, and Second Wind is the closest thing you have to it. Imagine a battle that goes on to day 3, they popped your last gasp, you haven't even shown them that you have Second Wind, and all of a sudden you play 3 of them, and you heal up by 12. Or if you trade your whole line, get injured, play one of them, all those injuries disappear. Pretty powerful card. And then finally, there's another idea that we have to explore here, and that is the idea of putting Shatter Cards in the deck. But most Shatter Cards have high attack, low health. It's a common trend. But instead what you want to do is you want to get 1/1 copies of those Shatter Card. So Rally Point, Galley, and new recruits can all do that. And they're all available to Ragnar. And these 1/1 copies that cost 1 are perfect cards to play right next to your Ragnar during the Daybreak or the turn before the Daybreak. So he will only lose 1 health, destroy this newly shattered card, and get effects that are very powerful. And there are a couple examples of these powerful effects that's available for the medieval deck or the Viking decks. You have cards like the Great Horde. It's a 6 cost 6/6 that can shatter, deploy 3 short sword. A very good value for a lot of bodies on your field. And if you get a copy of this, then you can have a 1/1 Great Horde that will still deploy 3 short sword if you shatter it. Army of the Great Banner, obviously a wonderful card, because if you think about it, this is a card that has Herald, Daybreak, and Shattered effect. And this is one case where you would want to play this card to the left of Ragnar during a Daybreak, because you want this Daybreak to trigger before you kill it with the Shatter. So that's something you gotta watch out for, even though I'm kind of curious if you trigger the Daybreak and pop out a Pikeman, then maybe Ragnar would actually hit the Pikeman. So even playing the 4/6 version of this card next to Ragnar is a pretty safe thing to do, because you will never have Ragnar attacking the 4/6 copy. He will always attack the Pikeman during the Daybreak. And that's a pretty neat way to avoid some of these awkward situations. But regardless, if you get a copy of Army of the Great Banner, you get another Pikeman for free, because that's a Herald ability. You get a Shatter ability for free, so basically you're getting tons of value out of this card. And then Huskarls here is a powerful card at 10/7 that has a shield for himself, as well as giving out shields to adjacent allies. This is probably the least useful one, but let's say you have this. It's a great card to put next to Ragnar in case you can trade it away. That way Ragnar can pick up a shield afterward as well, so pretty good deal. So that's going to do it for us, as these are a few ways that I've thought up to take care of Ragnar, as he tends to get a little fragile if you don't take care of the Daybreak effect, because taking damage from your enemies and then taking damage from your own allies and punishing your own cards with 2 damage can be a little rough. But with some help and some planning, I think we can utilize this general for a lot of fun decks, because I think Medieval got a lot stronger in the last patch. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye!